Breaking news, family. The global stage is shaking after Julius Malema and President Cyril Ramaphosa took a bold pan-African stand at the G20. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has reportedly uninvited South Africa from the upcoming 2026 G20 summit. Yes, South Africa has been removed from the host seat in what many see as pure retaliation. Why would Trump take such a drastic step? What exactly did Malema and Ramaphosa say that triggered this international backlash? And what does this mean for Africa's position in global politics? Stay with me, because what we uncovered might shock you. Before we dive deeper, do me one favor, family. Tap the like button so this truth reaches every African worldwide. And tell me in the comments, do you see this as retaliation or as global bullying? Let your voice be heard.
The G20 is going to continue without America and will hand it over to America. It will be successful with or without him. And that will demonstrate to him that he is not alpha and omega in the world. Very difficult situation now, especially with the G20 coming and we are hosting it. So your government ought to be very careful on how we go about it. Try to trade and do the counter offers and all of that. Once the G20 is done, we must come back to this racist. They need to be charged with serious charges of engaging in activities that undermined the sovereignty of the South African state. South Africa as a state must never be compromised by racist interest of a tiny minority, which we must deal with decisively. We are now going to have visitors. You know, even when we are fighting at home, when there are visitors, we behave differently. But we have seen the Afriscope and them are not wanting to behave differently, in acknowledgement that there are visitors coming, and we must not show our dirty linen to our visitors. But once the visitors are gone, we must go back and deal with this racist and put them at their own place. These are terrorists, and they need to be dealt with as such. They are terrorists. They want to harm this country. They want to destabilize the economy of this country, and we need to decisively deal with them as a state.
We will not be deterred. We are, as South Africans, a resilient people, and we will not be bullied.
In a bold declaration that is reverberating across continents and challenging the established order of global diplomacy, South Africa has drawn a line in the sand that Washington cannot ignore. South Africa has categorically refused to travel to the United States for the ceremonial transfer of the G20 presidency, effectively telling the world's most powerful nation, if you want it, come and get it on African soil. This is not merely a diplomatic spat between two nations. This is about dignity, respect, and the refusal of an African state to be summoned like a subordinate. For too long, African nations have been expected to bend, to accommodate, to always be the ones making the journey. South Africa's government has said enough is enough. The timing could not be more significant. After Donald Trump publicly announced that America would boycott the Johannesburg summit scheduled for next week, while simultaneously launching scathing attacks on South Africa's G20 stewardship, South Africa's response has been swift and uncompromising. The message is clear. Mutual respect is not negotiable, and South Africa will not participate in theatre that diminishes its sovereignty. This standoff is now a test case for how the global South asserts itself on the world stage.
Every year, the G20 follows a small ritual. The host country ends the summit by lifting a small wooden gavel, and it passes it to the next in line, the next country hosting the G20. It's a bit like passing the baton. But this time it did not happen. And that has kicked off a big diplomatic feud, a feud between the United States of America and South Africa. Here's how it began. South Africa hosted the G20 summit this year. It was a big deal for them. For the first time ever, an African country was playing host. But Donald Trump ruined their moment. He boycotted the summit. He did not attend the event. He did not even send a senior representative. And you can imagine how that landed in Pretoria, not well at all. What's worse, the next host is the United States. The G20 summit will be held in Miami in the Trump National Doral Golf Resort. It's a venue owned by the Trump Organization. So the South Africans were supposed to pass the gavel to the Americans. As per tradition, South African President Ramaphosa banged the gavel, but he did not pass it on.
I now say that this gavel of this G20 summit formally closes this summit and now moves on to the next president of the G20, which is the United States, where we shall see each other again next year. The summit is therefore closed.
Where is the United States?
They're not here.
So why did Ramaphosa did not pass it on? Why did he not pass it on? Because the American president was not even there. In his place, the US offered a junior embassy official. South Africa refused to entertain him. They wanted a minister, a cabinet-level representative at least. They said an embassy officer won't cut it. So the gavel was not passed. This has angered Donald Trump. And you know what Trump does when he's angry? He goes to Truth Social. That's what he did this time too. Trump took to social media and he uninvited South Africa from the 2026 summit. I'm not making this up. It sounds like the geopolitical version of a birthday party list. Look at what Trump said. The United States did not attend the G20 in South Africa because the South African government refuses to acknowledge or address the horrific human rights abuses endured by Afrikaners. Therefore, at my direction, South Africa will not be receiving an invitation for the 2026 G20. If Trump's language was fire, Ramaphosa's response was ice. He called this statement regrettable and he left it at that. He did not escalate it. Which brings us to the question, can Donald Trump actually ban South Africa from a multilateral summit? The short answer is no. The long answer is still no, but he can make life unpleasant. You see, the G20 operates by consensus. No single country has the power to revoke the membership of another, and Trump cannot unilaterally erase it. But here's what he can do. He can block visas for the South African delegation because the host country controls the entry. He can also freeze cooperation inside G20 working groups. If the US refuses to attend meetings, it slows everything down. It undermines the summit. In fact, Trump's boycott has already weakened the Johannesburg Declaration. He's also weaponized trade and aid. He's already halted US assistance and he could tighten restrictions further. So while he cannot kick South Africa out of the room, he can make the room colder. So what is this really about? Why is Trump targeting South Africa in the first place? Like you heard, he accuses them of white genocide, of going after the Afrikaners. This is a white ethnic group, the Afrikaners. They descended from Western Europeans. In the 16th century, they settled in South Africa. Many of them were traditionally farmers, so they were called Boers. It means farmers in Dutch. In 1948, South Africa's Afrikaner-led government introduced apartheid, meaning racial segregation. And this went on for decades. It ended only in 1994. That's when the black people were allowed to vote for the first time. Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress came to power then. Currently, there are 2.5 million Afrikaners in South Africa. They make up around 4% of the population. Earlier, Trump gave refugee status to a few members of this community, but the facts do not support his claims. There are no reports of genocide in South Africa, although the country has one of the highest murder rates in the world. Last year, there were nearly 77,000 murders. Only 8 of them were farmers, though. And it's not clear if they were black or white. Either way, 8 killings is hardly a genocide. So where does that leave us? Donald Trump believes what he wants to, and so he wants to be tough on South Africa. Meanwhile, Cyril Ramaphosa is holding his ground, and this standoff has bigger implications. This is beyond Trump and Ramaphosa. If a G20 host can weaponize visas, if one member can publicly humiliate another member, if ideological battles from one country spill into global economic forums, then the G20 stops being a stabilizing force. it becomes a stage for nationalist drama, and that is a slippery slope.
Disclaimer. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Afriscope TV does not promote hate, violence, or misinformation. All content is based on publicly available data and expert commentary. Viewers are encouraged to think critically and verify independently.